Hello, this is Tom Long, and you're listening to the Middle-Aged Musician Podcast. Thanks for joining me again, and appreciate all of the kind words and comments and thoughts from the last episode. And hopefully today, this one will be a little more substantive with a pointed subject, and that subject today is getting to the gig. Right now, you're probably thinking, why would you talk about getting to the gig? Well, let me explain. Many times we get a gig and we take for granted what it takes to get to the gig, set up, play the gig, tear down, leave, and then repeat the same process over and over. So my thought today is, as we are looking at different aspects of being a middle-aged musician in that time of our lives, and also passing along some knowledge that others who are coming up in the ranks of the music business could use, I decided this might be a great opportunity to share and impart some of that. So that being said, I'm going to use the real life experience that I go through when getting to the gig for my weekly gig at the campgrounds. Most every Sunday, I am playing a standard 3-song set at a worship ministry for a campground. It's a relatively simple gig. It takes probably more time for me to prepare the songs and rehearse than it does to actually perform them, which is standard for basically any gig. But the gig is an hour away from where I live. It is at 9 a.m. and lasts approximately 45 minutes. The campground supplies the music stand, the sound system, and the projection. So really the only things that I have to have with me are the necessary items to play my guitar, amplify the guitar with a guitar cord, because the campground is supplying the sound system. And if I have sheet music or words or anything of that nature, because the projection system is only audience facing, I do not have a teleprompter that I can read off of when and if needed. So, with that being said, I want to talk about my routine. I typically start the night before. Now you say, that's a little odd that you would start the night before getting to the gig. But the reality is, when I'm getting to the gig, I am actually preparing the night before, so the next morning I don't accidentally leave the house without everything necessary needed to actually perform. So let me start with my vehicle. I drive an older car. Typically the one that I drive has well over 400,000 miles on it. Our next newer car has 251,000 miles, and incidentally we just returned from a 10-day road trip in that car. So it's really important that the vehicle is in good maintenance, is well maintained I should say. Make sure the tire pressure is good, make sure that oil levels are good, make sure that I have enough gas to get to the gig the next morning. Because often when I leave, I typically don't leave or build in an additional amount of time for stops other than just maybe a little bit of a traffic slowdown. But fortunately, the gig is so early that there typically are not traffic issues to be concerned with, and I use a couple of apps to double check things as I'm going. But the night before, I will sometimes put an extra bottle of water in the car, make sure I have gas, and make sure the car's locked up before I go to sleep, and that all the lights, interior lights, exterior lights, are off, so I don't wake up the next morning and load out only to find that I have a dead battery from an evening of all the lights being left on, or some of the lights being left on. And sometimes that even includes the car doors not being securely fastened and all the way closed. So then back inside, I'm getting everything ready, from like what clothes I'm going to wear, and I begin to assemble everything together. Now when I say assemble everything together, I truly mean that I put everything in one spot that needs to be placed into the car when I leave the next morning. So let's start with my guitar, my instrument. This particular date, I only use an acoustic guitar, so I double check on the inside of the guitar that I have an additional set of strings, a few tools that would be needed should I pop a string before the set. If I do it during the set, then I typically just kind of suffer through it and then change the strings later. But I have the plastic winder for the tuners, and also have a guitar strap. And if I'm carrying paper music, I'll put the paper music down inside of the guitar case as well. And then, of course, the guitar. I do have a tuner, a headstock tuner that I bring with me, although I don't use it very often in this particular environment. As the weather patterns begin to shift, I may do that a little bit, but I don't use it often at all, if any at all. So I put the guitar next to the door, and then I focus on my gig bag. So my gig bag is a leather case, which I've carried for well over 15 years. And this particular gig bag has things such as spare guitar cords, guitar picks, an additional chromatic tuner, a direct box, a multimeter, a little small packet of tools with some small screwdrivers, additional batteries, which I also have batteries in my guitar case, and I will sometimes put music or documents down in the briefcase as well if it's something that I need to make sure that I see when I get there, because I'm typically digging in the gig bag for my guitar cords. The other items that I carry, and I carry these just in my backpack, will be my cell phone, of course for obvious reasons, because I use the apps to double check for any traffic concerns. Also, I have a tuner app that I use on there. And then if someone from the campground needs to get in touch with me, maybe there's an issue, or if I need to get in touch with someone, I carry a Leatherman knife almost everywhere I go. It's a multi-tool. I think it has 18 or 20 tools in one package there. And it's really a neat item to carry with you. I probably use it as much or more than my standard toolboxes. I have additional sheet music if I need it in my backpack. And then usually I carry a few small toiletries, Band-Aids, a few tissues, and maybe sometimes even a change of clothes. And the reason I do that is because I'm drinking coffee normally of the mornings, and should I hit a pothole or just spill something on myself, then I have a backup plan, and I don't necessarily have to perform with this massive coffee stain on the front of my shirt. After I have everything set out and accounted for, the next step for me personally is to get some rest. I know that my limitations of my body. I know that if I don't have a good night of rest, first off, I may oversleep, and the next morning I generally get up about 3 to 4 hours before I head out. Some of that's prep time vocally, some of it's just getting up and waking up because it's such an early morning gig for me. But also as a vocalist, as a singer, hydration and sleep and rest, vocal rest, are critical. So when I go to bed, I typically go to bed with the intentions of getting somewhere between 6.5 to 7, 8 hours of sleep if possible, and that's solid rest. It doesn't always work out that way though. The next morning when I get up, I start off with some coffee and don't drink as much as I normally would during just a normal work day, whereas I average probably 10 cups of coffee a day. On performance dates, I typically only drink 2 to 3 cups of the morning, and then I switch over to hot water or hot decaffeinated tea. I use throat coat, or my personal favorite is I use honey and vinegar, sometimes with some bee pollen in there as well. It's not only good for your throat when you heat it up, but it's also, and that's in a cup of water, of course, but it's also good for your sinuses and allergies, and honey just has a ton of great benefits for you. Now, so I'm up, I've had my breakfast, I've had my coffee, I've had my honey and vinegar, I've had water. It's time to head out to the actual gig, and this is assuming that I've put on my clothes, which most days I do. And when I drive, I like to, even though I go to this gig every week, I have no problems in getting there from a direction standpoint. However, because it's an hour away, and also because I don't build in a like 2 hour, 3 hour fluff time, otherwise I'd be leaving at like 6 in the morning. I generally check Waze, I check Google Maps, and I check the Apple app as well for any traffic concerns, whether there's construction, maybe a wreck, maybe there is a disabled car. You just never know. So I like to go ahead and check on that. And I typically will use Waze the entire drive because it's a peer-to-peer application, and the peer-to-peer apps are kind of cool because they will let you know of accidents or police officers and things of that nature. So when I'm driving up, I leave my house around 7:10, 7:15 for a 9 a.m. gig. I generally get there about 45 minutes early unless there are any traffic concerns. And I'm always there in time to set up, help the staff set up and do a sound check, make sure the mic's working, make sure everyone can hear appropriately, make sure that the overheads are consistent with what I've pre-sent to them, and just to kind of get a feel for the area to make sure that there's nothing has changed since the last time I played. And if everything is good, I will hit another bottle of water, maybe hit the restroom, and then I began playing about 5, 6, 7 minutes prior to the actual worship time starts, and I do that just sort of as a front-end music or a prelude type thing. And this gives me also some time to warm up, and I will generally play through the song, the first couple of songs, but I'll play them in a different style so that when people begin to sing, they don't necessarily recognize the melody that I've just played. Oh, he's been playing that for the last 10 minutes. So that's kind of my routine in getting to the gig. If the gigs are farther away, or if they are gigs that I have never been to, those are a little more elaborate in my planning. I often will go, for instance, for one gig that we did down in Beaufort, South Carolina. I actually went the day before. I was in the area, drove by the venue, checked things out. It was an acoustic gig as well, and they had everything set up for me, but I wanted to get a visual just to see what, if anything, might be different than what was explained to me by the promoter. In fact, I have another gig coming up in October that is in Townsend, Tennessee, and I've been by the venue. I've never been up to it, and it's kind of hard to see what the performance area looks like. So I'm going to go by probably one day when I finish the Gatlinburg gig and just take a peek, see what they have. I'll be bringing my own equipment for this one, and I may actually need to pick up an additional sub or something just to fill the room a little better. But when those type of gigs come along and you have travel time, you want to allow yourself, especially if you're not bringing your own equipment, and even sometimes when you are, you want to allow yourself plenty of time to have a contingency plan should there be something amiss or askew, and just maybe out of the norm for what you're normally accustomed to. I also like to plan accommodations way far in advance. It's kind of funny, this last trip that we took, we stayed in cottages and we had a few hotels and things like that. But I also carried my tent. And the reason I carried my tent was, with the pandemic going, if I didn't have a great feeling or great confirmation that where we were going to be from a sanitary standpoint was going to meet the standard, then I am perfectly fine with sleeping in a tent, sleeping in my car. Definitely would rather do that and bundle up real well in the covers and things that we took, as opposed to not getting any rest whatsoever because I'm afraid of catching some disease. So I hope this has been beneficial, and I hope that some of this resonates with you. And certainly if you like what you're hearing, please share it. Please like, subscribe, and all the cool things you do with podcasts. As I said in the episode prior to this one, really the reason for doing this is so I can chronicle some of the items that I do. And I've been so fortunate. I have made a living, like the music business has been my only gig. That was for about 4 years. And but then, life changes, life happens, and then you get other opportunities. But the music business is still something that you can at least do part-time. And what a really cool blessing that is as well. Thanks again for all the encouragement. Please feel free to shoot me a message, contact me. The website is under construction, middleagemusician.com. And as soon as we start to get something rolling there, I'll definitely let you know. Thanks again. Look forward to hearing from you. Ciao.